Hello, everyone. Another year has ended, so of course it's time to look back and recount some of my favorite comic books of the year. Because, as much as some people have you believe, there are still some good comic books out there, and we're going to be talking about those today. Now, as always, I don't do a generic top 10 list of like my favorite comic books of the year. I prefer to do categories, sort of like an award show, like the Oscars or something. I think it's more fun that way, and I think it's easier to do because when you do a top 10 list, it's like, how do you compare like something that's just like an original, like a standalone graphic novel versus like an ongoing series versus like maybe there's a one shot you really loved, and it's really weird to put that all in the same list. So instead, I do different categories. It makes it easier, and I have a lot of fun with it. So as always, I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. What were some of your favorite comic books of the year? What did you enjoy the most reading? Because I can't read every single comic that comes out in a year, but I try my best to read what I hear is good and what piques my interest. But still, don't get to everything. So maybe there's something I missed that you guys loved. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off with the best ongoing series, and it's the best ongoing series for the past couple years. It's Action Comics. I think that's 3 years in a row now that it has been my personal favorite ongoing title. I love what Philip Kennedy Johnson has done with Action Comics. It just ended this year with the annual. That was the final issue, which was very sad because now we have Jason Aaron taking over, which it feels like punishment. It feels like Superman fans have had it too good for too long now. With this little bit that we've had the new Joshua Williamson book, Philip Kennedy Johnson's been killing on Action Comics, and they're like, all right, time to take Superman fans down a peg or two. But anyways, we're supposed to be celebrating good comics here. So, Action Comics, fantastic. The latest arc, the Blue Earth arc, wasn't my favorite. I think it was one of the weaker story arcs that Philip Kennedy Johnson did, but I still enjoyed it. And the arc before it about Cyborg Superman and Metallo was really cool. I really loved what he did with Metallo. I thought that was great. Rafa Sandoval was the primary artist for this year for Action Comics, and he killed it. I love the way he draws the Superman family and Superman and everyone. It's really cool. Also, really bringing the family element into it. What he did with the children from War World and incorporating them in there sort of filled the hole that was left when Bendis aged up John was really cool. And yeah, Action Comics again. If maybe you just like got out of a hole and the last you heard about Superman was that Bendis had ruined him, come back and, well, don't read Jason Aaron Superman. We don't know about that yet. That happens in January. But come back and check out what Philip Kennedy Johnson did with Action Comics. Give it a shot. It's really good, and it's just been so consistent, and that's why it's my favorite ongoing again. Now, on to the next one, which is favorite limited series. There were a lot of really good limited series this year, but when I was thinking back on it, I was like, I think my favorite is Blood Tree from Peter Tomasi. He is one of my favorite writers of like the past decade or so. He's just been so consistent, and it's a shame that neither of the big two like really give him a book right now. He'll occasionally come on and write like some random thing for DC, but he doesn't have a big thing. He's going to be part of Jeff Johns' imprint Mad Ghost though, which I'm excited for that. But yeah, Blood Tree was his Image book, which was also, I believe, under Mad Ghost, the imprint from Jeff Johns, and it's really good. My only thing with this book that I wasn't the biggest fan of is the art isn't bad. It's just not tonally correct, in my opinion. I feel like the art does not fit the narrative. It doesn't fit the vibe of the story. It's a very dark story. It's a sort of murder mystery. Something like Seven, if you've seen David Fincher's Seven, Brad Pitt. It's kind of like, it's in the vein of that, where you have a cop in New York and someone's killing people and they're attaching angel wings to them and doing all sorts of crazy things. And I don't want to spoil it because if you haven't read it, it's definitely worth checking out. Very dark story. And then the art, again, not bad, but it doesn't really fit the overall feeling of the writing, in my opinion. But anyways, Blood Tree is great. You should check it out. It's just, I think it was 6 issues, just a 6-issue story about a cop in New York trying to solve some crazy murders, and it's pretty cool. I liked it a lot. And this was probably the most competitive category because there were some others that I was like, maybe that should be up there, which I'll talk about at the end. But Blood Tree won out for me. And next up is Best Standalone Graphic Novel, and this was an easy choice for me. Night Fever from Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. These guys, I've been raving about them for years, ever since I read The Fade Out way back, like years ago. I've loved everything they've done. It's been fantastic. They're always producing quality comics, and it's no different with Night Fever. Night Fever is about a guy who's sort of living a mundane life and bored with his day-to-day, and he can't sleep, and then one night he goes out and does some stuff, becomes another person on accident, and craziness ensues. That's all I'm going to say because I don't want to spoil it. You should read it. It's so good. I'll just read you a single quote from it because it was a quote that I fully like got behind and was like, wow, that actually describes how you feel during that moment perfectly. Because there's something that happened to me earlier this year that was like a violent incident, and in this book, the main character gets into a car chase, and he describes how I felt during my real life incident, and how he felt in the comic was like perfect. And I was like, wow, it's kind of cool when a writer can put how you felt into words when you couldn't really think of it that way. But the quote is, once it's too late to turn back, your nerves just go away. And then he talks about how he saw things clear and stuff, and like he's talking about it because he's in this like crazy scenario that he's never been in before, but he felt kind of like just cool, and he could see every detail, and it's like something you wouldn't think about. And I love that quote, and I was like, wow, that is how I felt during my incident. And I wasn't technically in a car chase, but yeah. Anyways, really, really great comic. Read Night Fever. And our next category is Best One Shot. And my favorite one shot of the year was Action Comics Presents Doomsday Special #1. I didn't expect this to be any good. I believe Dan Waters was the writer, which I don't think I've really read anything of his. So I was like, I'll pick it up. We'll see how it is. It's great. It's about Martian Manhunter and Supergirl tracking down Doomsday, who's in hell, and trying to make sure he doesn't escape. And that, if that premise doesn't get you, I don't know what will. It is done so well. Like, even the ruler of hell is kind of like afraid of Doomsday and what he's doing, and it's really cool seeing what goes on. And it's just such a good issue. It's a one shot. It's amazing. It's definitely worth your time. You should read it. I was surprised at how much I liked it. Eddie Barrows is on art duty for the book, and I've been a big fan of Eddie Barrows ever since I first read New 52 Nightwing. So it's always cool seeing him pop up, because he's not on a bunch of books that I read. So when he does pop up, it's like, oh yeah, Eddie Barrows. So he does a great job. It's a great comic. Moving on to Best New Series. Best New Series just means it's a series that started in 2023. And my Best New Series is a series that's been rebooted about 1,000 times, and that's The Incredible Hulk. Philip Kennedy Johnson strikes again. He's doing an Incredible Hulk book. It is so amazing. It's a horror book. It's Hulk's just being this drifter going around. Then he like picks up this girl that follows him that he doesn't really want to follow him, a kid, and she's like really likes Hulk. She comes from an abusive home. It's this weird thing where Banner's trying to get rid of her, but she adores Hulk for reasons that I won't get into. And there's also this creepy like monster queen that's been bugging Hulk and causing problems for him. And Nick Klein does the art, and he's so good at this. He's been amazing for a while now. I loved what he did on Thor with Donny Cates, and he did some stuff with Deadpool back in the day. It was cool, but what he's doing with Hulk and like the freedom it has, like it's different than anything he's done before. It's really cool, especially every time Banner transforms into Hulk. He's literally just like ripping Banner in half and just destroying him to become Hulk. And you see like why he really, really doesn't want to transform into Hulk, because not only does he has no control over anything, but he's literally just murdering Banner every time in the most excruciatingly painful way possible. It's like peeling him off, and it's such a good comic. I was not expecting this to be this good, but I was like, hey, I like what Philip Kennedy Johnson has been doing. I'll read pretty much anything he writes. I'll check out Incredible Hulk, and if not, at least Nick Klein's art is always good. And this book blew me away. Incredible Hulk is well worth your time. Next category is favorite new artist. I like to do this every year. This isn't someone that's a new artist to comics. This is someone that I recently discovered, recently found out about myself. They could have been doing comics back in the 60s, but if I just found out about them now, that's what this category is for. And for me, that's Jamal Campbell. I have been seeing his covers for a while. I don't think I had really read any comics of his. I think he did like a Nightwing annual, like a couple pages of one that I read, but other than that, I hadn't really read anything of his, because he's on like Naomi, that Bendis book, and he's on that random Green Lantern book. He wasn't really on anything that I cared to read, but he's on Superman now, Josh Williamson's Superman, and he is amazing. This guy is so talented. His pages are beautiful. I love seeing what he can do. It's really cool. Every time he's on a new issue, I'm always excited. And it's just another premier artist, and he's so good. And I hope he does more comics that I care about, because it's like, man, if only I would have seen more of this guy before, because he is so good. But yeah, Jamal Campbell just killing it right now. And then my final category is best single issue. And for me, the best single issue is Action Comics 1057. This is a really good issue. This is the start of the Blue Earth arc, and what happens in this book is great. You have the beginning where I don't want to spoil too much, but you have the beginning where Superman is having lunch with a former convict who is now a construction worker, and he's talking about his life and what's been happening with him. And there's a great moment at the end there where the guy's like, yeah, Superman, you don't have to just come to check on me and make sure I'm doing good now that I'm out of prison. And Superman says something along the lines of, I'm not checking on you, I'm just having lunch with a friend. And it's great, and it's really well done and well written, and I love that moment. And then the rest of the book, you have some stuff with Blue Earth that I don't want to spoil, but it gets very intriguing and it's really cool. That was my favorite comic of the year, my favorite single issue. There might have been a better one. Again, my memory is not perfect. There could have been another issue I read earlier in the year that I completely forgot about. But when I went back and thought about what my favorite single issue of the year was, it's like, man, Action Comics 1057. That was definitely high up there. I really enjoyed that one. But yeah, that's it. I have some honorable mentions, just some comics I really enjoyed that I didn't really fit a category, or there were other comics that are a little bit better than it. For me, Wolverine vs. Predator was killer. Loved it. I was not expecting it to be that good. It's a 4-issue miniseries from Benjamin Percy, who I haven't been the biggest fan of his Wolverine run as of late. He's done some great stuff with his Wolverine run, and then it's like peaks and valleys with that series. But Wolverine vs. Predator was great. You essentially find out that way back in the day, Predator and Wolverine had a fight. Predator wanted to kill Wolverine after that and has been hunting him for like centuries and has been chasing him down, and then they get their final confrontation in issue 4, and it's really cool seeing like throughout the decades and like centuries or whatever that Wolverine and Predator have been fighting, because Wolverine's just recapping their former fights while he's setting up a trap for in the modern day for the Predator to end this once and for all. It's really good. Way better than it had any right to be, but I really enjoyed it. And then Batman and the Joker Deadly Duo, which Mark Silvestri wrote it and was the penciler, of course. He's one of my favorite Wolverine artists, but he draws a damn good Batman. Although I wish his Batman had the trunks, because just the all gray without like the trunks to break it up, not the biggest fan of that. But nevertheless, the book is beautiful. He's a great writer as well, and he writes a funny Joker. That's something that I think is one of the hardest thing to do in comics when it comes to writing, is writing a funny character. Because it's really hard to just write funny in general, because, a lot of the times something that really helps, it's like half writing, half performance, like when it comes to a TV show or a movie, but you don't have the performance when it comes to a comic, you're just reading it in your head, so it has to be extra funny, and he's actually has some pretty funny stuff in that comic. It's called Batman and the Joker Deadly Duo because they end up teaming up in the book, because Joker kidnaps Jim Gordon and uses him as leverage because he needs Batman to help him do something, so they team up. One of my favorite parts of the book, without spoiling anything, is there's a train that's going somewhere. There's a third party involved that Batman and Joker are teaming up against. The third party says, I will only stop this train if you can get it down to like this certain weight. Every single train car is like full of people. And so they go, Batman starts like burning parts of the train, he starts throwing furniture out and stuff, and they're not hitting their weight that they need to. And then you just hear screaming, and Batman turns and is like, what? And they're like, oh my gosh, he did it. He threw people out. And they're like, what? Joker's like, I just threw the fattest people out of here. He threw like he threw like 6 fat people out, and they ended up making their quota and stopping the train. But oh my goodness, when that part happened, I was like, damn, he legitimately killed like 6 people, 6 large people to save everyone else on the train, to more save his own skin. But during that whole sequence, I was like, damn, that's what I wanted to see from a Batman Joker team up. And it's great, and everything else in the book is really cool, and it's just a really fun premise. And if you haven't read Batman the Joker Deadly Duo, because it kind of snuck under my radar at first. I didn't get it when it first came out. I got the hardcover when that came out. I just got it recently and read it, but it's really good. And then we've got Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Team Up number 2. I enjoyed the first one. I enjoyed this one. It's a fun time. Dan Mora drawing these characters is awesome. It's just, if you're a fan of either team of heroes, you should read it. It's cool. Tenement from Jeff Lemire and Andrea Sorrentino is one of my favorite creative teams. I've talked about them a million times before. It's a horror book. It's been building to a lot, especially with the other stuff in the Bone Orchard mythos. But yeah, if you want a good horror comic, read Tenement. And then finally, we got Green Lantern from Jeremy Adams and Ermiso. I don't know how to pronounce the guy's name. Great artist. I've talked about him before. Really good. But their Green Lantern book about Hal Jordan has been so much fun, and I've loved it. Jeremy Adams has been so consistent over the years. He's a newer guy, and he's been so good. I love what he did with Flash. I'm loving what he's doing with Green Lantern. He's killing it. And that was it. Those were some of my favorite comic books of the year. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really want to hear from you. Comments below about what some of your favorite comic books were. And I hope everyone has a good new year. And I will see y'all later.
Hey, skinny boy, saucy boy, I be running to the bank. Yeah, you know I hit the gas in the whip full tank. Riding past the ocean while I'm listening to Frank.